As the sun set over Tehran's Grand Mosalla on Saturday, thousands of Iranians continued to arrive to join the farewell ceremony of Iran's late Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Mourners wept as they filed past Khamenei's flag-draped coffin, chanting death to America and Israel, while also expressing feelings of revenge. Now, visuals from the Iranian state media showed crowds flying flags of Iran and Hezbollah, red flags of vengeance, some with Khamenei's face of them, including members of the Atashne tribe from southwestern Khuzestan province. Others carried banners and flags, while giant portraits of the late leader were displayed across the capital. The vast courtyard of the Grand Mosalla complex was filled with mourners, many of them children, who were beating their chests, wailing and waving the banners of the Islamic Republic. Several volunteers on the street sprayed water on mourners and handed out cold drinks. Residents said the refreshment stations were community organized, distributing water, sweets and sharbat to those attending the ceremony. Previously, representatives of Tehran-backed militant groups also joined the first day of mourning, with envoys from Hezbollah and Hamas meeting Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. The Hezbollah delegation to Tehran was headed by senior officials and included officials and families of killed and those who were killed and wounded. Hamas, meanwhile, said in a statement that its delegation was led by the head of its political bureau, Mohammad Darwish, and included other bureau members such as Basim Naim. Then on the second day of the marathon funeral ceremonies, prayers were offered over the casket of slain Iranian Supreme Leader, a 97-year-old Shia cleric who led the prayer for Khamenei and his late family members. Khamenei's sons, Masoud, Mesam and Mustafa, attended the prayers, as well as Iran's President, Masoud Pezeshkian, Parliament Speaker, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, and Revolutionary Guard, General Ahmad Vahidi. However, Khamenei's son and Iran's current Supreme Leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, did not attend the event. In the meantime, a report by the New York Times suggested that Iranian security officials rejected son Mojtaba Khamenei's request to attend the burial of his slain father and predecessor Ali Khamenei because they fear Israel will kill him or track him back to his sanctuary. The new Supreme Leader, Khamenei's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, has not been seen in any new image since being wounded in the strike that killed his father. According to the plan, Sunday has been declared a public holiday for the entire country, and in the evening, Khamenei's remains will leave the Grand Mosalla complex, where it is lying in state, in preparation for processions through the capital planned for Monday. Khamenei's remains are expected to be taken to Qom, Najaf and Karbala, the great Shia centers of Iran and Iraq, before being laid to rest on Thursday in Mashhad, home to the country's holiest pilgrim shrine. Iran plans to mobilize millions of people for big processions over the coming days, offering transport, food and lodging the handle. The burials were meant to be conducted within a day of the death in Islam, but because of the risks of holding a big funeral during the war, it was postponed until after last month's interim truce deal was agreed. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump has said that he was surprised to see the Iranians cry in funeral of Ali Khamenei in Tehran, saying that he believed that people hated Ali Khamenei. Trump further said, and I quote, "Maybe they were fake tears." All right, to get a perspective on this, I'm now being joined by Scott Lucas, Professor of International Politics, Clinton Institute, University College Dublin. Professor Lucas, thanks for joining me here. Always a pleasure speaking with you. When you see these visuals, Professor, when you see the people mourning, when you see those flags, when you hear those chants, do you think these are fake tears?
not. And Donald Trump's badly informed if he believes that. Uh, let's be clear that before this U.S.-Israel war in late February, that this was a divided country over the regime that leads it. There are many Iranians, in fact, in January, who took to the streets to protest over economic conditions, to protest over the ongoing attempt to get political rights. Those protests have been going on for many years. They were really furthered by the 2009 manipulated presidential election, where Iranians felt that their voices had not been justly been heard. But having said all that, there are many Iranians who did continue to support the regime before the war. And so, the fact here is that, not every single Iranian hated the supreme leader. In fact, many of them did support him. But what is significant is that the U.S.-Iran or U.S.-Israel war in Iran was a catalyst where even for many Iranians who don't like the regime, who would like to see it changed, reformed at least, possibly replaced, their nation was under attack. So what you are seeing in these funeral processions is a combination of those who generally support the regime, but those who see this as a moment of important moment for the country. And they are rallying not just for the supreme leader or for any of the current leaders. They're rallying for the idea of Iran and the fact that the U.S. and Israel should not be allowed to bomb it out of existence.
Professor Lucas, Donald Trump seems surprised that people are mourning. Earlier, he was surprised that the West Asia bases of the U.S. were attacked. Then there was a surprise when the Strait of Hormuz was blocked. And there was also a surprise with the way Iran fought back, which he mentioned a number of times during the course of the war as well. Now, let's go back to Feb 28th, when Donald Trump says, after we're done in a couple of weeks, the Iranian people can claim their government. It was a sign towards regime change. From these visuals that we're seeing today, any hint that one would assume that anything has changed in Iran?
That under wartime conditions, and although we have a ceasefire, there's always the possibility that military attacks could occur. And even Iranians, and some of them, my friends, are involved in this. Even Iranians who want to change the regime are not going to come out on the streets. They're not going to come out and try to overthrow the regime. First of all, because they would face a very powerful response from the security forces, but secondly, because they would be accused by the regime of doing the dirty work of the U.S. and Israel. Quite frankly, on February 28th, what happened is that the Israelis told the Trump administration, who had been in talks with the Iranians, if you kill the supreme leader, you carry out these operations, the Iranians will rise up and get rid of the regime. We'll have Iranians who are in Iraq, Iranian Kurds who will come across, will arm them, and they will lead this uprising. All of that was nonsense. Those uprisings did not occur, and they would not occur. And just to put it bluntly to you, this regime had serious issues. And in fact, I think this regime was in deep trouble before February 28th. And ironically, as Israel wanted regime change and the U.S. wanted regime surrender, Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump saved this regime. They saved this regime by attacking it, because that internal opposition, they've had to basically try to protect themselves before any other priority.
I hear your point. And that's a very pertinent point, because in the beginning of the year, those protests saw thousands were killed by the Iranian government itself. And now we're seeing these visuals, which seem there's more support for the Iranian government. It's all happened during the course and after the war. Scott Lucas, thanks so much for joining me here on the broadcast. There will be more to discuss. Look forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much, and thank you, viewers.